well against Tamara.
She did. Experience up. Just so she know what to do, Paul.
But just the way she went through, what's her name last time, Karina. And Always had no luck with Karina.
Karina got nowhere.
No, she pulled left.
Well, I know I got injured.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
She withdrew from the.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. And she went right through her. And yet Karina just crushes Paula.
We're not.
It's so slow.
Is it actually 7 o'clock?
It's 7:01 now.
7-1.
Guess I need to start soon. Okay.
We're live.
I think. Yeah.
Hey, everybody in the YouTube world, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Just a couple of housekeeping notes to start. A big thanks to our membership, people who have joined the membership and are supporting the channel. Appreciate that. Last episode last week, we had a very first super chat from Uncle John, and we appreciate that. That was great. Thanks, Uncle John. And look, we'd appreciate it if you like the video. If you want to become a member, that's great. Or super chat, everything's appreciated. We really do like all the support. And a couple shout outs. Today is a new Hall of Fame member, Ryan Espy's birthday. Big happy birthday to Ryan.
Oh, happy birthday, Ryan.
And you and I went to Prince Edward Island yesterday for the day. And happy birthday to Tamara Mitz, another Hall of Famer, world champion, Canadian champion.
You name it.
Yeah, and she's hosted us all over PEI, and we had a great day.
Oh.
For me, it was a special treat, and no disrespect to Tamara, but I got to talk with Kevin Kelly for a couple hours.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in
one of the original legends that comes out of Canada for Canadian arm wrestling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
he was at least.
You people need to find out about Kevin Kelly and see video of him, and he was amazing back in his heyday.
His left arm was just unbeatable.
Well, at one point in time, there was nobody under 200 pounds that could touch his left.
Yeah.
And he was given super heavyweights fits, except for guys like Rick Barbet, who was just an actual animal.
Yeah.
You know, and Gary Goodrich and these guys. But Kevin Kelly is still a huge Rick Barbet fan, as am I. Rick Barbet was,
how can you not be?
Yeah, but he was our original super heavyweight monster.
Yeah. And
it was great. So that takes care of Ryan. Tamara, big shout out to Ian Carnegie for a huge gift that I received from him last November. Thanks, Ian. I really appreciate it. You don't know how much that means to me. And that's all we need to say about that.
Okay.
Ian will know exactly what I'm talking about. And I got a lot of requests for me to do an online show. What I didn't think we needed was another Yahoo on here doing Zoom interviews.
Yeah.
Because there's guys out there that do it, and they do it very well. You look at what Uncle John's doing; he's having some great people on for Zoom interviews. Neil picked up some amazing interviews. How do you beat a guy like Engen Terzi, who has more contacts out there?
Yeah.
But there's other guys doing Zoom interviews that have no business being in front of the camera. I'm sorry, no names are being mentioned, of course.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to just be another guy doing Zoom interviews.
Yeah. People get tired of them when everybody's doing it.
And I mean, everybody's been interviewed. So I just thought I would take a little bit of a different direction. Last week, we just went over the Canadian Nationals. This week, I want to talk a little bit about the history of Nova Scotia arm wrestling and when that came into being. So we start with you. So when you got involved in arm wrestling when?
Back in 1980, I was in Alberta. Shout out to the Alberta crew out there. Most of them that are arm wrestling now went around.
Especially most of them weren't born, were they?
Most of them weren't born. So I started out in Alberta in 1980 with Tony Singer and Gordon Matowski and John Miazdik. You know, so we had a great club. It's funny talking about Kevin. Alberta in the early 80s was the hot spot in Canada.
It ruled, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. When you look at all the people out there, the Langels, the Barkers, you know, all those people, there were just so many great arm wrestlers coming out of Alberta back then, and people were moving out Alberta to arm wrestle. Sylvia Bork being one of them. He moved to Alberta just to arm wrestle. Anyway.
He moved up there specifically to arm wrestle.
Yeah.
Wow, that's some dedication to the sport, and we knew Silvio had an almost unmatched dedication to his arm wrestling.
Yeah,
he was very invested in his arm wrestling.
Absolutely. So I mean, I train with all the greats out there, and Daryl Rue is another one. I used to travel down on the weekends. I used to train in Edmonton through the week and then go down to Rue's place a lot of times on the weekend.
where
He
was
was in Red Deer.
Red Deer.
Red Deer had one of the best clubs going.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, with the Langels and Daryl Rue and Jody Ingalls and his brother Doug Rue, and I'm trying to think who else is around there. Sorry if I forgot the other ones. But yeah, Alberta was just insane. So then I moved back here in the end of '84.
Okay.
There was no arm wrestling. Well, I mean, there was a few arm wrestling things going on. There was, I think, 3 places that called Nova Scotia Championship.
Yeah.
You know, so, but first I was actually, there was some arm wrestling going on in New Brunswick. Martin Collins was running tournaments in New Brunswick.
Okay.
But he was getting tired of that, so I took over New Brunswick for a short time. And I was running tournaments in New Brunswick. Then some of the guys in New Brunswick put up a stink. They didn't want somebody from Nova Scotia running tournaments in New Brunswick. So I said, fine, you guys take over. I'll start things in Nova Scotia. So I went back to Nova Scotia and started things here. And that was the '85, I believe.
1985 was my first tournament that you asked me to come and help you out at.
Okay.
The association was not formed
No.
at that point in time.
Yeah,
You and I went to Digby.
Yeah.
So it must have been sometime around September or something, because that's when Janice and I moved into an apartment together in Clayton Park.
Okay.
And so that's when you and I went to Digby. So it
Okay.
must have been later on in the year.
Yeah.
And I don't remember.
But I know I did a tournament early in.
Well, I think
would
we
have
did
been
a
early,
couple
yeah,
tournaments before
yeah.
that.
But yeah, and then once we decided to create the association, the funny thing was, you know, when I went to apply for, you know, to create a nonprofit organization, they said, well, there's already a Nova Scotia Wrist Wrestling Association. Huh? I said, who's on it? You know, there's nothing going on. And the funny thing is, Charlie Yorston was a director of the Nova Scotia Wrist Wrestling, and he didn't even know it.
You did. That's classic.
Yeah, so he's a director, so, you know, and they told me at Registry of Joint Stocks, just get one of the directors to say this association doesn't exist anymore. So Charlie writes a letter. And
So you knew Charlie already at this point, or you just met him?
I just met him,
Okay,
yeah, because I put on a few tournaments.
okay.
So Charlie writes a letter and says this association doesn't exist anymore, and we started the Nova Scotia Armwrestling, and I think you were the first.
I think I was the first vice president when that got started.
Yeah, and then, so then we ran our first provincials in 1986.
And we allowed New Brunswickers
Yeah,
to come and enter the Nova Scotia Provincial Championships.
and they took 8 out of 10 of our provincial trophies.
They kicked our ass.
So-
for those wondering, so yes, I was around back then. No, I did not arm wrestle. I started off in arm wrestling as a referee, first as a spot judge.
Yep.
With your training, and then up to the head referee, and eventually became head referee in Nova Scotia, whatever.
Yep.
But
And then, so then after that, I took so much grief for letting New Brunswick coming in, so we shut it down. We restricted to Nova Scotia. Now, the next year, we went up to New Brunswick,
for their provincials,
For their provincials.
which were open as well. Okay.
and we took 9 out of 10 from New Brunswick. So we upped them. And then they shut theirs down too, because, you know, really, when you think about your provincials, you gotta have your provincial champion from your province. You know, it's no good having, saying your provincial champions from another province. That's just plain stupid. I mean, if you wanna have a Nova Scotia Open or something like that, like they
For
do
sure.
for golf and stuff like that, that's different. But you know, your Nova Scotia champion or your New Brunswick champion, Ontario, it has to be from the province.
But so I remember, and way back then in the 80s, and we were at the Atlantic Winter Fair,
Yeah.
putting on Nova Scotia provincials, and we were outdoors in this tent, which we thought they were treating us like second-class citizens.
Well, before, yeah, but that was the second year. The
Was that the
first,
second one?
the first year, we were actually in the barn.
Oh, no, that's, yes.
We were in the barn, so there's
Jeez.
cattle lined up down both aisles, and we're right smack, and this place is packed.
Yeah,
I mean, you couldn't fit any more people in that barn. I mean, and it was a big space, and there was hundreds of people in there watching. So we got all those people in there, and some people actually got shit on.
literally. That's classic.
It was, yeah, I heard about that later. I thought that was pretty funny.
That is
Throw that
funny.
in there. Yeah, then we ran our provincials, I think, at the Atlantic Winter Fair a couple of times. So then
Couple
we-
times, yeah.
Then we actually moved to the Nova Scotia exhibition in Truro.
I don't remember that. I
Yeah.
remember us going to Bridgewater. I
Yeah,
don't
then after
remember
that, I think after that, we went down to South Shore exhibition,
Okay.
and we were down there for years.
Yeah, a long time.
And it was funny too, because The first year, I wasn't around when we held a tournament in the South Shore exhibition. And they had them in a different spot. And I convinced them, I told, why don't you have it in the beer gardens, you guys make a bunch of money. They're like, no, there's no way we're having arm wrestling in the beer gardens. They would have fights in there through the week at this beer gardens. And there's bodies being dragged into this place, just knocked down, broken chairs over people and everything. Buddy said, there's no way we're having it. I said, don't worry about it. We won't have any issues. So I convinced them to hold it down there. So we're in the beer garden and we're holding the provincials. And so they get all this extra security on and they're standing all around. And afterwards, Buddy come up to me and he says, I've never seen a better behaved crowd in my life in this place.
And that beer garden was on the side of a slope.
Yeah, so it was perfect.
We're down at the top when they come in the front door, and we're down at the bottom of the slope.
Yeah.
It would be great for drunks to just roll their way right out. But
and that place was jammed every year. That place was just packed. And it was always stinking because it was a metal building and it was stinking.
it was hot. When it was a hot day, it was.
And that's when Dave Campbell started refereeing down there too, I believe. I don't know if he started before that, but I remember Dave used to referee down there too. I can't remember the exact year when Dave.
I don't remember exactly, but it was probably about 2 years, because Dave and I worked together closely for about 2 years.
Okay.
And then I took some time off having family, and Dave continued on and became, and it's still funny to this day. So Dave said, no, Rick didn't teach me how to referee, Scott did.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, that may be true in the beginning, but Dave far surpassed any knowledge that I had of refereeing.
Yeah, and then Dave went on to be referee chief of, first Nova Scotia,
Nova Scotia,
and then Ontario, and then
And
Canada.
now Canada,
Yeah.
So I mean, Dave really surpassed any rules that I could pass along to him.
Yeah.
He went way over and above. But
Yeah.
and Dave was a really good referee for a lot of years.
Oh, absolutely.
That's not to say that he's not a really good referee now, in case anybody gets the wrong idea, but.
No, and then our provincials just kind of bounced around, but it stayed down.
So why did we, I wasn't around when we actually left. It was you and Eddie McClellan was the vice president.
Yeah.
And you guys left Bridgewater for, I don't know what reason.
Something happened. I can't remember exactly why. But new management took over something down there, and sometimes I don't know if they just got cheap and didn't want to have us in there or whatever. But it was like, okay, fine, we just found another place to go.
And where did you end up going? Do you remember?
Jeez.
We'd have to look up the old results.
We'd have to look up old results. I mean, we're talking back in the early to mid 90s.
Very early 90s. I left when my wife was having a baby in '89, latter part of '89. And then I wasn't back till like '93.
Okay, well, you know what? Maybe we went to the provincial exhibition in Toronto after that then.
Could very well be, because I never was there.
We used to hit a lot of the exhibitions through the summertime. There was always exhibitions everywhere. I mean, we hit the Nova Scotia Forestry exhibition. And that was huge. We'd have back then we were, 100 entries.
100 entries was a lot of entries.
Yeah.
Back in that time.
Absolutely, because we were running tournaments every 2 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks, like minimum, and people were coming out and having a good time. And but we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. So you form the association. We're not allowed in licensed establishments.
Right. Yeah.
So our very first tournament at a bar.
Yeah.
We weren't actually in the bar.
No, I rented a flatbed truck from U-Haul, which is just down there. So I parked it. They had a patio, so I parked the patio here, the fence, and that they had a gate here. I parked it right outside. So everybody sitting in the patio could see the back of the flatbed truck.
And they could sit and have a beer.
They could sit and have a beer
inside the.
No, so we had to go out. Then you had to get up on the flatbed truck.
Yeah.
Arm wrestle, then go back down.
Yeah.
And it was stinking.
It was a brutal day.
Oh yeah. So the people that were doing the dry sheets, I'm not sure who was doing it then, but I don't know if it was my wife or no.
Wouldn't have been Janice.
Okay. So yeah, they just cooked up there on that. Well, plus me.
I was going to say I did too.
Yeah.
Because I'm up on that stage with you.
I might have actually been doing the dry sheets that day.
Oh, you may have been. Well, if I was not the head referee, then I was the downside referee. So
yeah, and then after that, I convinced the Nova Scotia Liquor Licensing Board to allow us in the bars.
So, and there's a little bit of history there too, because we weren't allowed.
No.
And you had to start writing a letter writing.
Oh no, that was another one. That
was a different.
I wanted to allow kids to come in the bars to compete.
Yeah.
And I contacted liquor licensing board because Nova Scotia, if you're a musician, Nova Scotia's got a really rich history of music. So if you're a musician, you could be any age and perform in a bar, any age whatsoever, didn't matter, you were allowed. But arm wrestling, no way. And I contacted the guy and the guy said, nope, no way. I said, okay. So I got on, I don't know if we wouldn't even had email back then, so I called every MLA in the province, including the premier.
Yeah.
And then every party, all three parties all said, no, that's a great idea. So the next thing I know, I'm getting a call from the liquor license board, the head guy at the liquor license board, and said, I guess we need to have a talk. He says, you read up the regulations and come and see me. So I wrote up the regulations for allowing kids in the bar that they had to leave after the tournament was over and all that stuff, and they had to be competing. So I took it down to him, and it was so funny too, because he looks at me and goes, I don't know who you know. We got to go through with this. Little did he know, I didn't know anybody. I just busted my ass calling everybody trying to get us in there. So that was really funny when he says, I don't know who you know, and I wasn't letting on that I didn't put camp. So he thought it was important. Little did you know, I knew nobody.
Well, and the people that don't understand the history, and I've heard comments over the years, well, anybody can do something in a tournament in a bar. And I go, folks, you don't understand what we went through for the privilege of doing this.
Yeah, and I had to write a letter every year and say, okay, we're going to be at these places.
Yeah, here's our date,
here's our places,
bars or whatever.
And one time I forgot.
Oh,
we had one tournament, and the person that owned the bar got hold of me and said, the liquor inspector said here, he told me to take my postage down. So bang, had to fire off a letter right away, like our license board saying we're going to hold a tournament at this location. And Buddy was able to put the postage back up. But now here's the funny thing, was years later, the person who was in charge of the liquor licensing board had left, got a new person in. And we were at a tournament down in the valley, and some of the Gaggins pulled to come over, and I think even Jim, that's how long ago, I think Jimmy was underage. Liquor inspector comes in and says, you can't have any underage people in here. I said, I got a letter, it says we're allowed. He says, that's no good anymore. Okay, so that ruined that tournament pretty well. So then I get out my letter, because I kept the original letter. I mean, we're talking years later. I get out my letter and I look to see who's on that letter. So I wrote another letter to the people that were also CC'd on the letter, and okay, figure out who's the top dog here.
yeah.
Sent them a letter. And somebody must have got their knuckles wrapped, because then we were allowed back in the bars.
And I just, they need to understand that there was no gray area. No, the answer was no. You could not do this in a licensed place.
Like Nova Scotia's just was their liquor licensing rules back in the 80s and 90s were just.
What took, I think my daughter was like 5 or 6 years old. She was born in '89, before she was allowed to actually go into a bar, even to have a meal.
Yeah.
If you were underage, you just weren't allowed in a bar.
Yeah.
Period.
Oh yeah.
Like now, you see people bringing their kids in for dinner and whatever. Like it's commonplace.
Yeah.
But it was not commonplace for us at all.
You could drink till 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning, but you, heaven forbid, you should take your kid into a bar to have a meal.
But I remember us being paranoid. Okay, that tournament's over. You got your trophy. Okay, you got to take your kid out of here.
Yeah.
Like, we do not want to get in trouble here. No, you got to go.
Yeah.
We don't know if the inspector is watching us or not. We
And we were warned a lot of times that the inspector's going to be coming in, so make sure everything's
up. But look, we had no issues.
we never had a problem.
No.
I mean, I remember one time there was one guy that he's going to cause a problem, and I had him turfed right out of the bar. And it was just so funny, but he goes, you can't throw me out. And goes, well, pointed to me, he says, you're not allowed in here. Okay, buddy,
You gotta go.
right on. Perfect. But you know what, outside of that, we've never had an issue. I mean, all the years, we had some pretty friggin' packed place, and we were in some pretty tough joints too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And never had an issue.
And the arm wrestlers police themselves.
Yeah.
Right. So and back in the beginning, the first few years, the arm wrestlers knew exactly what you went through to get the privilege of us to be in there.
Yeah.
They did not want this ruined.
So all the regulars,
Yeah.
And that was our police force right
and
there.
there were some bad dudes back in the day that I certainly would never want to mess with. Right. And look, and they were around, and they're great guys, there's no issues, but there was no screwing around.
Well, the one time we almost had a problem up and it was kind of funny in I think it was Pinkney, Glasgow. And Charlie Yorsham was refereeing. And he made a call and somebody didn't agree with the call. And this girl comes up mouthing off at me. I'm sitting there doing the dry sheets announcement. She's tearing her strip off me. And I basically told her to go sit down. The next thing I know, her boyfriend comes over. And he's stomping over. Well, Jules Giroux, Jules was 200-pounder, but he took a XXX jacket because he was so stinking wide at the shoulder. He was a lumberjack. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Jules stood up. First he pushed Warren out of the way, and then Jules stood up. And the guy just looks at Jules, he goes, "You don't need to be part of this."
Yeah. When you put your hands on another arm wrestler, you made him part of this.
So, Jules stood up, but he went and sat back down again. That was the end of that. But it's just so funny, Charlie makes the call, and then somebody's coming and bringing tearing a strip off of me.
Look, I remember that. I can remember when a Truro family, the Benoits,
Oh, yeah.
right? There was Jordan and Warren and Fraser.
Well, Fraser started at the Forestry exhibition. And I think he was like 14.
Okay, but I was the head referee.
Yeah.
So if I made a call against one of Mr. Benoit's kids, you got in crap for it. Right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was hilarious. I could do whatever I want, and Rick's got to get into trouble. So,
and the funny thing is, every year Fraser would come out, and I actually wrestled every one of those guys in the 180-pound class at one time. So first, I forget who was older, Jordan or Warren.
Jordan.
Jordan's okay,
old,
so and then every year Fraser started out in the latest class, which back then I think we had a 132-pound class, and each year he'd come out. He'd be up another class.
Okay.
Like I say, he's only 14, 15 years old.
Growing.
Yeah.
And this kid
Yeah.
at the time, because he was a kid,
Yeah.
he learned his lessons well, because he
yeah.
turned himself into a hell of an arm wrestler.
Oh, absolutely.
He really,
Yeah.
no, I'm not trying to disrespect his two older brothers,
No.
but I don't know if they ever had the same success that Fraser
No.
did.
Oh, God.
No,
Not even close.
he just turned himself into an amazing
Yeah.
arm wrestler. And me and him have joked and talked about it. He goes, "Oh my God, Scott, when did we first meet?" I was like 12 or 13. I said, "Well, Rick remembers you being like 13 or 14.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and he goes, "Really?" Yeah.
Yeah. That Forestry exhibition, that went on for years. That was a great tournament every year.
It was on a personal story that she'll probably kill me for talking. So we were at the provincials in Truro one year, and my wife broke her arm.
Yeah.
The first tournament I talked her into coming back to the Forestry exhibition.
Oh, right.
We're like 4 or 5 matches in, and Gail
Rigby.
broke her arm, and it wasn't the arm break.
It was
It was
a
the
scream.
scream afterwards, and
Yeah.
Janice just looks at me and says, "We gotta go." Well, she had come through and healed up from
Yeah.
the broken arm, and then to the people that always say, "Well, where's your wife?" And I said, "My wife's not gonna come watch arm wrestling." So the only arm wrestle my wife will ever watch is my videos, because she knows I don't put up injuries.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. There for a while we went because it was 6 months later, her brother broke his arm.
Danny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here was Danny. Danny was, I'm not sure what he had, but he was crippled up a bit.
Yeah.
And
he had a bone issue.
Okay. And Danny, at the beginning, he was very slight. And people just kind of toyed with him. But man, he was starting to really come along.
He was determined.
Yeah.
He didn't look, he just wanted to get better every chance
And
he could.
he was a guy that people were just toying with in the beginning. And then he was starting to be some serious competition, that 132-pound class.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately broke his arm, and it was that really sucked. I mean, people wonder, back now we don't even have a 132-pound class. Back in the 80s and 90s, that was our biggest class. We would get 12, 15 guys in a 132-pound class. Now,
Well, we don't have the class.
yeah,
So.
yeah. Our latest class is 154. I mean, we don't have and even our ladies, the ladies cutoff used to be 132. Now it's 154.
The ladies 154. I don't know why I thought it was 143, but
Yeah, now it's 154. And back then, there was only, and that was everywhere. That was standard. There was 2 ladies classes, under and over 132 pounds.
man, oh man, oh man. And that's going to be a topic for in a few weeks down the road with the state of women's arm wrestling in Atlantic Canada.
Oh, nice.
Got a couple of guests coming in for
Good
that.
stuff.
So that should be good. We have any questions for Rick, folks? Just send it on in. Yeah, well,
So where we at now, we're up to about the mid to late nineties.
It's about the mid-90s.
Yeah, so,
And so at that point in time, so the big super heavyweight in Atlantic, Canada used to be Dwayne Guptill. And we had Greg Hardish here from Nova Scotia. And Dwayne had Greg's number for the first few years.
I don't think it was a few, I think it was only 1 or 2 years.
I thought it was at least the
Okay.
first 2 to 3 years. And then I remember we were out at Exhibition Park, and it was
I
a
remember
sit
this
down.
one.
I do too. I was a sit down tournament, and Greg finally broke through, and he beat him. And he stands halfway up in his chair, and he goes, "Ugh."
And to know Greg was the most quiet, unassuming guy,
Yeah.
but Dwayne used to rub it in his face a lot.
Look, as many arm wrestlers are today, and all through the years, and I don't hold this against him, but Dwayne was arrogant.
Yeah.
He really was. He was, and he was the best around at that time.
Yeah.
The best around
And
here.
he was one of the ones that complained about me running tournaments in the runs.
Of course he was, because then he started running the tournaments. I only got invited up to referee once.
Well,
And I referee with Martin, your friend Martin.
yeah, and the thing is, once I left, they only ran 2 tournaments a year, and they called them both the provincial championships.
Where did we went to? If I remember correctly, the press box in Moncton was the only one I got invited
Okay, that was in that, I think that was in '87 when we went up
to.
and,
That could very well be.
yeah, and took all their trophies.
Yeah, and I think Martin was the head ref, and I was the downside
Okay.
ref, but I never got asked because, well, as you know, I wasn't biased. I didn't care who won. It didn't matter to
Well,
me.
and back then, no offense,
No.
don't take this the wrong way,
No,
but it's, and this wasn't just down here, this was everywhere. It was like, yeah, you want to be a referee.
oh, absolutely.
You're just pulling people out of the audience, geez, I need a referee, you want a referee?
Well, that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
When you come and help me out, I didn't know anything about organized arm wrestling.
Yeah.
And during the tournament, you're coaching me. Okay, you gotta watch for this, and you gotta watch for that. Okay, you missed this, and I'm going like, and it's like when you're training a new arm wrestler, hook, top roll, pull back, back pressure. I don't know what I'm doing. Right? And the referee was not at the standard that
No.
it is today.
Oh, come on, no, not even
Yeah.
close. And for people who don't know, Scott and I used to work together.
Yeah, way back.
Way
Well,
back,
in
we
the
started
80s.
together in '85.
No, 80s. Yes, no, you're right. 85, because we were working together when you invited me to.
Yeah,
do that.
and then we also worked with Dave Campbell, so that's how
Yeah.
we knew Dave too.
No, that's right.
People were wondering how the 3 of us all ended up.
Well, because before Dave, we had different kind, my brother, my middle brother,
Right.
Darren would come out and
Yeah.
help referee.
Earl Wilson, or
Earl Alonson would
yeah,
come out and help referee, but nobody stuck
no,
until, there was me, so I stuck,
and
and then
then,
Dave.
yeah,
And then when I stepped away, I
Paul
Paul Gillis,
stepped in, to the
Yeah.
outside.
but a lot of times I'd see Charlie in a referee shirt,
Yeah.
Warren Latimer in a referee shirt, Cecil Fay in a referee
Yeah.
shirt, and
And plus, a lot of these guys wanted to pull.
yeah.
So we'd be switching people in and out, referee shirts coming on and off, and me too, And then one time, we changed it when I was refereeing and I was pulling and I was kind of toying with this guy, and Buddy thought he was better than what he was, and he got mad because, you're refereeing, and so I said after that, we can't do that anymore.
No, and then I can remember you being really sticky about the one rule that before you switched it out, if you're going to referee and pull, you cannot come and pull with a referee shirt on. You gotta take that
yeah.
referee, because we still see it today.
That looks horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 referees at the table. How bad is that look?
Yeah, that's just brutal. And look, and I edited it a few years ago, the funniest clip I ever saw. You're refereeing at the table by yourself. I think you were at Lunenburg exhibition.
Okay.
Or the fisheries exhibition
Okay,
down there or something. You're refereeing, so it's ready to go, and you see something happen on the other side of the table. I watch you walk around the outside referee side of the table, say something, and then come back. You never stop the match, right? And I'm going like, wow, are you kidding?
Matches weren't quite as fast back then.
No, they were not. And everything was a grind back
Yeah.
then. There was not that many flash
No,
games.
no. But I mean, I've had to do that many times. I went down to New Ross and I was head referee, downside referee, and I was doing the dry sheets and
And
I
now it's that way.
I ran the whole tournament by myself.
Yeah, I've seen that quite a few times.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was a fun day.
But look, over the years and in the beginning, we were having a lot of fun. And there was a lot of tournaments. And the bar doesn't exist anymore. The Village Gate was
Oh.
super good to us.
Yeah, Absolutely.
Practices in there and
We-
tournaments whenever we wanted.
We packed that place.
So that's why they were so good to us,
Yeah.
because they were making money.
Oh, yeah, and we actually charged back then.
Well, and
Now the bars aren't making any money, so we can't even charge them anymore.
well, you know what's different today? Back then, the tournament's over, we all hung out for
Oh,
like 3
yeah.
or 4 hours.
Oh, yeah, kept pulling.
Kept pulling, closed the bar down.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
So they kept making money after
yeah,
everybody left, and I know, like, and we weren't near as strict. Guys are drinking all day
Yeah.
and coming to the table. Why we didn't have more injuries is beyond me.
yeah, I know, I
Right.
know.
But very rarely do we have even attitude with
No.
people drinking. We didn't even have. Oh, there's the super chat bell. What do we got?
Eric Roussin. Big fan of this type of content. Keep the shows coming.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Eric. Rick and I are both huge fans of yours.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The
and
Arm Wrestling Archives, I was telling
we're
Kevin.
talking to Kevin Kelly
Kevin-
yesterday about this.
Yeah, telling Kevin Kelly, he says, you gotta friggin' watch or read Eric's stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just great content right there.
And I think, Eric, if I'm not mistaken, Kevin Kelly has a couple of questions for you.
Yeah,
That Rick and I could not answer, and we knew exactly who to direct them to. So thanks for the super chat, Eric, and thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely.
So where do we leave off? What we were talking about? Oh yeah, so drinking at the tournaments.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, we really didn't have any trouble. You know, the biggest thing that stands out in my head is we were in Amherst doing a tournament. And there was and it wasn't the arm wrestlers.
No.
There was other people
And the
drinking.
place was packed.
Yeah, and Greg Harnish is the big stud out of Nova Scotia. Like Greg Harnish was just a man among boys
Yeah.
at the time. And the boys started getting a little bit chirpy. Greg doesn't say anything. Greg doesn't say anything. Then they said something about his wife.
Yeah.
And Greg just stood up. Well, the table went with him.
You wanna see 4 guys crawl under one
Oh.
table in a hurry.
Yeah, and nothing. It was just like you said when Gilles Giroux stood up. When Greg stood up, and everybody, oh damn, someone's in trouble. Right?
They all crawled, but that was the end of that.
Yeah.
Nothing happened?
No, not a thing. And I mean, Greg, and he's smirking afterwards. He goes, "God, can we take so much?" Going,
I gotta tell you another great
yeah,
story.
absolutely.
Down the forestry exhibition one year, so Greg wins a super heavyweight. And this guy's razzing him. Guy's like, I'm stronger than you are type thing. And he won the bet. And he goes, Greg, Greg's pretty unassuming, like I said, so. And he goes to Charlie Larson, says, what should you do? This guy won. Charlie says, put his arm down, take his money, easy. And Greg comes to me, he says, buddy wants to bet $50. He says, but I didn't bring any money with me. So no problem, we'll cover it.
I'm covering you.
So here we're lining this up after the tournament's all finished, these guys are gonna go. So, I said, you got some money you wanna bet, do you? And buddy pulls out 100, didn't have 50. I said, yeah, we'll cover that. I just grabbed $100. So line him up, whack, whack. Greg pinned him about 4 times. His buddy didn't think he was going down, so Greg just pinned him at ease.
Oh man.
And then Greg's got his money, and buddy goes, yeah, I still know I'm stronger than you. And Greg, typical dry fashion, goes, well, a trophy in one hand, $100 in the other, since you're not.
And I wish you guys had been around to watch Greg Harnish and see what type of guy he is.
Yeah.
Because Greg is just an amazing human being.
Oh, yeah.
Super calm all the time.
Yeah.
Just wants to come out, have some fun. He loved arm wrestling.
Yeah. And he went 5 years without being defeated. And the funny thing is, everybody thinks, this is a walk in the park for Greg. He was so nervous before a tournament, he was almost sick.
Well,
He'd be pacing back and forth outside.
in 1999, he would, when we had the nationals were in Grand Digue, New Brunswick,
Okay.
he would not rent a hotel room with us. He rented one in Amherst in case he said the nerves got too bad and I have to go back home.
Right.
I'm going, like, for real? He goes,
Yeah.
oh yeah. But like, and even that Saturday morning when he's on his way to the tournament, he said he thought 4 or 5 times we'll turn around and go
Yeah.
home because the nerves would just.
And that year, he finished second to Devon.
Yeah.
And
He had a great tournament.
I'm not even sure what class that was. Was that one? Wouldn't have been 198.
No, 220s.
220.
I think,
Yeah.
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 I don't think we've ever seen Greg under 200,
No,
but
no.
220 sounds
Something
about right.
220. Yeah.
Because my draw at the Canadian National 1999 were Richie King,
Yeah.
If you don't know who Richie King is, you need to look that up.
Yeah.
And Earl Wilson.
Easy day.
Yeah. Oh, it was an easy day. Easy day for them. And I can remember.
I think Richie won that, didn't he? Did Richie?
I thought I
Maybe you're welcome
I
back.
thought
Maybe
he
you're welcome.
fouled out.
Okay.
I thought Richie fouled out.
Okay.
But Richie had him a couple of times,
Yeah.
but elbow fouls.
Okay.
And
Damn referees.
yeah, exactly. But you were talking about the forestry exhibition. So you didn't run that right away.
No,
Kevin Pentland.
yeah, Petman. He was a friend of John Miastik's.
Right, and I
They were-
refereed with him.
Yeah, they were in the forces together.
Oh, is that right?
They were in the, yeah, that's how they knew one another.
Okay.
Yeah. And, yeah, so he was running that, and then he got tired of it, and then we took.
And
it
then,
over.
yeah, and then he gave it over to you.
Yeah.
but- And I can remember, and so this is the first time that I refereed with somebody other than you. This was, I think this was before I refereed with Martin up in New Brunswick.
Okay.
And his style was just very different than yours. I'm not saying it was good or bad, it was just very different. And it was me who was having to make all the adjustments. I'm good, and I don't, like, and I'm going, but I don't think this is right, but am I allowed to say anything? I didn't know if I was allowed
Yeah.
to say anything or not at that time, but it was good. And then I can remember back then in the 80s, like, I didn't take money for refereeing. You just, whatever money the referees were being paid, you just kept putting that aside, and then you paid for my plane ticket to Atlantic Coast Championships in Virginia Beach.
Right.
And
That
then
was 87.
87. And that was my first real exposure to big time arm wrestling,
Yeah.
not just hometown.
That was
Scotia.
a big tournament
They
down
were
there.
saying Outside Nationals, that's one of their biggest tournaments
Yeah.
of the year.
Yeah.
And the names that were there, that's where I first met Rick Barbet, Cobra Rhodes, Gary Goodrich,
Patton,
Dave Patton,
Keeney.
Chikini,
Oh, yeah, everybody was there.
And so my experience didn't end well. And him and I became friends afterwards. We're in the refereeing in the finals. I'm the downside, and Bill Cox
Yeah.
is the head referee. And the match is going, and I say, stop, elbow foul. And he just looks at me and goes, but no, she's winning this match. I said, well, okay, but she got an elbow foul. What does he want me to do? Like, he doesn't want to give her a foul. I don't remember who it was. And he calls Steve Stanaway over, who's the head referee, and I was removed.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, pay me.
And back then, the way it worked is, if you were refereeing, if you were the downside, you couldn't call anything on the other side.
No, but I thought this was a gray area, because I wasn't calling it on Bill's
No.
side of the table. She went off the back or something when she was trying to pin.
Yeah.
I thought that was still on my side of the table,
Yeah.
or at least in neutral position. And for whatever reason, even though all these people really intimidated me, I wasn't backing down. Well, it was an elbow foul.
Yeah.
I saw it, and you're not going to rip off that other lady arm wrestler because you think this girl should win. I don't care who you think should win.
Yeah.
Just give her the foul and let them restart.
Well, yeah, it's only one foul.
Yeah, and then I can remember so many complaints, and that a couple of the Canadians that I just met, Paul Levesque and a couple of Cicchini, and I'm refereeing, and if there's any doubt, put them in straps.
Yeah.
If there's any, and I'm just calling for straps, and the guys are leaving the stage. I want that Canadian referee. At least he gives us a chance, right? But I had heard, I don't know if there's any truth in this, but the rumors going around were that you couldn't get a fair shake against Dave Patton.
No.
You're not getting a fair shake against him. You're not getting a fair shake against. Remember, George Gibbons was there.
Right.
You're not, and he was a
tough
great arm
beast.
wrestler.
He
He really
was- I
was.
remember Charlie and I used to go up to Amos every year,
Yeah.
and I seen him up there. Man, that guy was,
He's a stud arm
he
wrestler.
was a strong.
He really was.
Yeah.
And even though she doesn't actually remember it, that's the first time I met Karen Bean.
Okay.
This tiny little
Yeah.
woman.
She was refereeing back then.
She was, her arm wrestling days were over, but that's when I first met her. It was 1987. And she kept saying, Scott, I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong. I said, I have videotape to prove that I'm not wrong because you and I refereed together. She goes, oh, we did not. I said, yes, we did. And then, so
But you were only 198 pounds.
I was only 198 pounds. I had all that blonde
Yeah.
hair, right? And she doesn't remember that. And when I met her, like, I'm over 300 pounds and I have no hair. And she's going like, and then she's looking at it, she's going like, I can't believe that's you. Going,
Well, even some of the tournament footage that you put up from back in the 80s when you were refereeing, nobody knew it was you.
no, but you and I were at a tournament in Bedford, and what was his name? He was a lightweight puller.
From,
Melissa Bear's dad.
oh, jeez,
I
I'm
know.
on the spot. Yeah,
I can't remember
I can
Melissa's
picture-
maiden name. What was her maiden name? I probably remember his name if I could remember
yeah,
her
no,
maiden name.
I'm just drawing a
But
blank.
you and him are talking, and I walk up, and he looks over, and then he goes to you, whatever happened to that real skinny referee you used to have? And you just, this big grin on your face, that's not there. He turns and looks at me and goes, you are kidding me. No, he's not kidding. But look, by the time I had my heart attack and whatever, I was 366 pounds. So just a friggin' monster of what I was when I first started. But somebody, I think Perry Broom, put up a picture of me refereeing somewhere and saying, can you guess the people in the picture? And people that are friends of mine today saying like, who's the referee?
Yeah,
And right now, and somebody said, it's Scott. Oh, it is not. What's the referee's name? And I finally had to get online and say, no, that is me.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But it was, we had good times back then. We had some, like I just mentioned Perry Broom's name. I don't think people in Canada truly understand how good he was.
Yeah.
He was
I mean,
amazing.
He beat all, I mean, he beaten Vern Martel,
He
he
beat
beat Paul
everybody.
Blues.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they've beaten him
Yes, of
too.
course they have.
And I mean, he beaten all the best guys in
But
my
he went
before.
He went on a tear of 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years in a row, national titles.
Mm.
Right? And because Perry was such a fun party guy,
Yeah,
I think that's what they remember most about him is the fun they had with him,
don't forget about
how
what he won.
good he was, and he could toy with people.
Mm.
Now, sometimes I'd say Perry overselling sometimes, but look, we had
I'd tell him sometimes, was you know what, you're burning this guy, this guy's gotta pull some more, and you're toying with him. And you might be taking away a second or third place from him.
yeah, absolutely. Who else do we have back then? Smaller guy, Warren Latimer was a great Nova Scotian puller.
135 pounds.
Yeah.
Warren hit like a train.
He did, and had no issues going up in weight class.
No.
He wasn't afraid of anybody on the table.
He went up to Toronto and won nationals.
Yeah,
132, and he just plowed right through him. Eddie McClellan.
Eddie McClellan, Eddie the
I'll never-
Hook. Yeah,
Eddie the Hook. I'll never forget when we had national, the first time we held nationals down here in '94. And it was Eddie McClellan and Dave Knox. And Eddie goes, I can't do anything. I can't get him in the hook. You know, Dave was just peeling him right out. I said, well, you know what? Don't bother getting the hook. Drop your wrist and just press right through. Eddie comes off the B side and beats Dave Knox twice.
Oh, really?
Just by dropping his wrist and just plowing right through him.
Oh,
So, yeah. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah. But that's all. Look, Dave Knox from Ontario back in the day.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
It's funny too, because he's another one, and we were just talking about that at the Nationals, and you know, Scott, do you remember my mullet? I said, oh, do I ever? Dave Knox had so much hair when he was coming to the table, and none of us have all that hair anymore, but yeah, so he was another guy. So we had Greg Harnish, the big
Charlie
security.
Orston.
Well, in the beginning, Charlie Orston was the most dominant puller we had
Yeah.
until Greg came along
Yeah.
and got a little bit seasoned.
Yeah, 165 pounds. He was crushing everybody.
You and Charlie, and you would pick out the weight classes you were each going to win,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, you'd go back then you could make 154s. You pull the 154s and the 176s, Charlie pull the 165s and the 198s that were 87s.
We went to New Brunswick one time, and there was a tournament in, I'm thinking right close to the main border, like St. Andrews or something like that. And then there was another one the next day.
Oh, jeez.
So we did 2 tournaments in one weekend, and we won like, I don't know, 8 classes.
Just between the two of you.
Yeah.
And you don't pull left,
Well,
so.
and the funny thing is, so Dwayne's running this tournament.
Oh, geez,
The
yeah.
second tournament. And well, the first one, I'll get the first one first. So it was so funny, you know, back then. And I mean, I know everybody's experienced this. These guys are going, so-and-so's never been beat before. So-and-so's never been beat before. Wish he was here. Well, this guy comes into the St. Andrews tournament. I was running that. And he goes, yeah, I've never been beat before. He's signing up. And the girl was doing the dry sheet, sitting beside me, but he's got Charlie Orston. I said, what's this? This guy's never beat before. Ready? Go. Whack, bang. It's over. And then when we went up to, I forget where the other tournament was in New Brunswick the next day, and they were just firing everybody at me. They were just trying to knock me.
You were a hated puller.
Yeah, because I used to catch.
Yeah.
And And then they put Charlie and I against one another, so one of us would just
Well,
lay
you lay
down.
down, yeah.
So then that didn't go over good at all. So like I said, we took first and second and all, both, I think they only had two classes that day, so we took first and second in both classes.
Oh,
Or it
geez.
might have been three.
Yeah.
But then down the other, we took every class.
Speaking of never been beat before, so we had a guy come out in Nova Scotia one year, and he was Nova Scotia provincial champion. And I remember you saying, well, "Where'd you get that title?" And he said, "Ontario." His name was Will Sardi. Will Sardi became a many-time provincial champion, Canadian champion, world champion.
Yes.
He turned himself into a
Oh,
great
absolutely.
I'm sorry, what an ass he was in the beginning. That first tournament he showed up, him and I talked about that not that long ago, about a month ago. He goes, "Yeah, I can't believe you guys let me come back." But he got a provincial title somewhere in Ontario or something. Like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me?
Oh man, I used to hear that all the time. Someone's, I'd be talking to someone, "Oh yeah, I know so-and-so used to arm wrestle. He was provincial champion." "Oh yeah, what's his name?" You tell me his name. "Oh, he's not ringing bells." "What weight was he?" The funniest one was, he was 150 pounds.
He's your weight
That
class.
was my weight class. I'm pretty sure I know who it was, but I used to get that all the time.
I bet.
Somebody, "Oh yeah, he won provincial," and he won provincial, thinking, I never heard of these guys.
And in the early days of Nova Scotia Armwrestling Association, I don't know if he contacted you or not, but I remember you telling me Al Zink,
Yep,
who was a wrestling promoter down
Yeah.
there.
yep.
He did international wrestling with the Cormiers out of New
Yeah.
Brunswick, Dale Burke, the
Yeah.
Beast, Rudy and Bobby K.
Well, I was still, I was living in Alberta,
Okay,
and I was down here visiting. He got hold of me, so we're going all over the place because he's putting this tournament on. And I heard afterwards, boy, it was just a disaster.
so he did put on a
He
tournament.
did put on a tournament,
Okay.
but see, he'd seen John Yassick on TV saying arm wrestling's the fastest growing sport, and thinking, oh, here's some money to be made, fastest growing sport.
Yeah,
But he didn't know a damn thing about arm wrestling was his problem, and so he just put this on, he was just going, okay, you and you arm wrestle type thing. There was no dry sheets, it was just, he was picking people out of the crowd, you and you and you and you, and I don't even know who he had even refereeing it, if he had anybody refereeing type thing.
well, one of the early brother combos that I remember meeting very early on were the Borks out of New Brunswick. Silvio and Eddie Bork.
Yeah,
And I mean, both amazing, great guys, both really good arm wrestlers. No matter how much Eddie Bork tries to downplay his arm wrestling, we have a ton of respect and love for you, Eddie Bork, on the table. He was just great on the table.
I mean, he would give anybody fits up the table.
He really did. I pulled him in practice over and just pin him at will. But on that ready to go, oh my, I never beat him.
Yeah.
And I weighed him by like at least 70 pounds.
And Silvio's left was legendary.
He was phenomenal, and I can remember you showing me an article in the newspaper where Silvio he's standing like this with his left arm, and he's got the right arm down, and I swear to God that left bicep was twice as big as the right bicep, just like yours was back in the day, except opposite.
Yeah, and there was a picture, we were up in Toronto, I think it was the Nationals, and Silvio made the front page of the newspaper.
Oh yeah,
he was just ripped. He's up there getting ready for it, and you just see the veins and everything coming to his arms, and he was just ripped.
Oh, look, great memories of the books, and look, most of the guys from New Brunswick, the only person we really had an issue with was his arrogance. And when Greg finally beat Dwayne,
he came down to earth.
Yes,
and then and everything kind of disappeared. But then he only hung around because I don't think
he wasn't around much longer after that.
Yeah, Greg went back up there and beat him again. So then we just never seen him again.
Yeah,
that whole group. And it's too bad they had a good group right there in Sussex.
Dwayne didn't put on a tournament. I think Silvio put on a tournament in Sussex that I did get invited to. You and I and Charlie, I think, drove up to it, and Silvio brought me in, and I can remember saying, well, why'd you bring him? We got referees here. And Silvio's going, yeah, but we want the best referees here. Right? And I thought he was talking about you, right? So I thought, well, yeah, okay, like no big deal. And he goes, okay, Scott, you're head referee. Oh shit, really? And I was still new enough to still be nervous.
Yeah.
Before a tournament. But I remember when we went to Virginia Beach, you and Charlie went out for breakfast, and my nerves were just getting the best of me. So I ordered breakfast in, and I'm eating and everything, and the nerves just started, and all I could do to make it to a garbage can because breakfast is coming back. I was terrified to walk out on that stage.
Yeah.
Well, it was my first exposure to and these legendary arm wrestlers.
And it was a big tournament.
It was a huge tournament. We were there for a long day.
Yeah.
But the arm wrestling was amazing, and I'm so sorry we have fairly lousy footage of it. We were just having different people from
Yeah.
like our team. We had a great bunch
Yeah.
of guys go and girls.
Well,
and girls.
we did, because whoever won the provincials that
Was
was
it no provincials or Atlantics?
it was provincials.
Okay, well, where did you pay for your trips to Atlantics? Because remember,
What-
Carl Selke from
Yeah,
New Brunswick
and
won
he never-
something.
And he never showed up.
But what was that? Where was that? Was that a trip to there, or was that a trip to like the Nationals?
No, that was a trip to nationals, I
Okay.
believe, because back then we had Olin's as a sponsor.
Yeah,
So
I still have my red Owens
yeah, I was
jacket.
gonna say, so everybody that won received a track suit and their way paid down in Virginia Beach. That's why we had a great team going down there.
Oh, and we had a phenomenal time.
There's a funny story before that too. So there was another arm wrestler who was like, there was me and then there was Richard Heisler.
Yeah. Who worked for Greg Harnish?
Who worked for
Greg Harnish as a fisherman.
Yeah.
And Richard worked on the boat for Greg.
Yeah, and him and I were the top two guys in the 150-pound class, and I always had his number. So, and then right before provincials, we had the forestry exhibition. Well, Richard beat me at the forestry
Okay.
exhibition, and Greg says to me, he goes, "You still gonna go to Virginia if you lose?" That's Greg. I'm not losing. Yeah, but if you do lose, are you still gonna go to Virginia Beach? I said, "Greg, I'm not losing." And then he didn't ask a third time, so provincials comes around. And nobody down here was using it, nobody uses it to this day, but I bought some stickum. So I sprayed the back of my hand with stickum.
We're not allowed to use stickum now.
Oh, yes,
are
we are.
We're still
No,
not.
nobody uses it, but
No,
yeah, yeah, and I, the only place I would use it is across the back of my hand, so when somebody grabs on, then they're stuck there.
Okay.
So I sprayed the stickum on, and Richard Heisler comes up, he grabs on, he goes, "What's that?" I go, "Stickum, you want some?" He goes,
He
"Yep."
says yes.
He's spraying his hand away.
I'm all teeth.
Ready to go? Whack. And I smoked him.
Because
He
he was super fast.
He was
Richard
super fast, and he, one of these big hand
Yeah.
things just going, and he couldn't move. He was stuck there. And then you know, him and I in the finals, same thing. He was done then. He couldn't get the stickum off his hand. He couldn't move, and I pinned him twice, actually fairly easy.
And even though he was super fast and a really strong guy, he did not have the arm wrestling, the table IQ.
No,
He just hadn't been around
No.
long enough. And for because so many of the arm wrestlers back then were new,
yeah,
he was just too damn fast for them.
yeah,
But when he came up against somebody that actually knew what they were doing,
yeah,
but there was nobody else in your class that could challenge him.
no,
Because he was going through everybody else.
Yeah.
And you're right, it was just you and him.
yeah.
But you pulled up in class so many times that,
Well, I won provincials, I think, in 5 or 6 different classes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
oh, wow, that's just, but,
And then Perry had to time me.
oh, well, and
However, I've never won a provincial overall. Perry
has
Perry won a provincial
and that's
overall.
when Greg was there,
Greg was
Rob
there.
McNamara was there.
Rob knocked Greg out, and he won the super heavyweight.
Yeah.
And then Perry comes and beats Rob. Sorry, Rob.
Yeah,
Beats Rob McNamara in the overall.
Rob, you'll have your chance to get back at Perry when you come on the show in a few weeks, so.
I should mention I beat Rob in an overall too.
Oh, you never won the overall title.
No, I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it wasn't at provincials.
Oh,
It
okay.
was the last time we actually ran an overall. I forgot where we were at, and so Rob won super heavyweight and whatever class I was in, I won. So then we come around the overall. And then I end up knocking Rob out.
Because that overall provincial trophy, he's got to read like Greg Harnish, Greg Harnish,
Oh,
Greg
yeah.
Harnish, Greg Harnish, Barry Broom, Greg Harnish, Greg Harnish, Greg Harnish.
Well, I mean, Greg, he tore his bicep off one year, then he missed the next year and come back and won provincials again.
Yeah.
He tore it off against Mark Bethel hit him. Mark hit him down like this. Greg stopped him, but then Mark had a second shot.
Second shot.
When he's,
Well, I can remember you and I watching that on videotape.
that was actually Rob McNamara.
No, we watched Greg's on
Okay, we watched
videotape
it,
as
yeah.
well. Yeah, and Rob's was much more graphic.
Yeah.
Just the camera angle was better at the
Yeah.
time, and we could see what happened just before.
Was Rob's right or left? I forget. But
I'm not
anyway,
sure. We have what, 5 minutes? Really?
because remember Rob's, yeah, because it was like this and you could actually see the bicep.
You could watch it roll right
Yeah.
up into itself.
But what happened with Rob is he got hit over like this and he lifted his elbow wanting to get another
Another
start.
foul,
But
yeah.
when he did that, he got hit again and it pulled his arm up.
And then the biggest difference between, they both had the same injury. So Greg had surgery and Rob did not.
Yeah,
right? And
Yeah, and I mean, Rob came back strong, but it was many years later. Greg was back 2 years later in one of the provincials.
yeah, and both look, Greg and Rob, we had so many good super heavyweights back then. You say Rob and Greg and Jules Giroux pulled in
Yeah,
that place.
Jules had a great left hand.
Rob Young was
Rob
a
Young.
factor in there. Don Giovanetti. Do you
Right,
remember him?
right.
Hefty. He was a lot of fun to be around.
Yeah.
And a big, strong guy. He never really learned how to arm wrestle,
No,
but a big, strong guy and fun to
Yeah.
be at a tournament.
Yeah.
So, and other super heavyweights.
well, we had quite a few heavyweights like Mitch Hepworth and.
Yeah, Mitch and
Grip. You know what the funny thing is? I see people using this all the time. Grip and rip. First time I ever heard it was out of Mitch Hepworth's mouth back in the early '90s.
I think it was the late '80s at
Maybe
a
late
tournament.
80s.
I heard him
Yeah,
yelling at somebody
Yeah.
in Toronto.
yeah. Grip and rip.
Grip and rip. And Greg Pye.
Yeah.
Remember, he was a bodybuilder, so and he had the mullet going on, the great big arms and chest, and all the girls loved to come over and just watch Greg. Ooh, Greg, right? And super strong and everything, but
Couldn't arm wrestle that well.
no.
No.
And when you cut like guys that were advancing in the sport, and Greg was a bodybuilder,
Yeah.
who just happened to be super strong. And like his first year or so, he was great.
Yeah.
But then guys like Greg Harnish just kept getting better and
Yeah.
better and better.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that kind of hurt us too, is you had people that were taking it seriously and people were just kind of going in it for fun.
Yeah.
And so we're having great tournaments, but then as the years went on, the guys that were just in it for fun kind of didn't have fun anymore because they couldn't win anymore because people were just separating themselves from everybody else. The people that were sticking with it, coming up to the tournaments and going to practice, stuff like that. So they just started, gap just kept getting bigger. So then it took us a while to get things back going again because our numbers really were falling there in the late '90s.
In the '90s, I
Yeah.
knew we were.
Yeah, we were really falling down in the numbers. Luckily now they're coming back up.
I was going to say, like, outside of what's happened the past 2 years with COVID, still the provincials this year was a good tournament.
Yeah.
You had a really small one the year before because of the vaccine mandates and everything else. But even that, there were some good matches there. We had John Tyrion living here from Ontario at the time.
Yeah.
And the Atlantics this year, even though I wasn't in attendance, I was at Michigan State, but Atlantics was a good tournament.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
And Nationals will be in Nova Scotia next year, up in Cape Breton. Everybody make it.
everybody make it, but that's all the time we have today. Look, if you'd like to hear Rick back on more, because we only made it to the '90s.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to hear Rick come back on with some more Nova Scotia Armwrestling history, and I'll make some more notes and questions for him. I imagine we could talk him into coming in.
Oh, yeah. Enough money, I'll come back.
There you go. Yeah, well, we'll double your pay for today. How's that? But thanks for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate it. Again, big shout out to Ryan Espy and Tamara Metz on their birthdays. And
Happy 50th, Brian.
and Kevin, it was great to see you and chat with you. I love talking with the legends, and it was a good group yesterday, and we had a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely.
fun.
Yeah.
And that's it for us. I'm Scott McGinnis.
Rick Pinkney.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We really